All right.
Okay. Well, if anyone comes in late, we're just kind of doing intros right now. I am Carley Nuzzo, and this is my colleague, Carrie Jorgenson, and we are going to talk about how to have a productive and fun summer. So summer it seems like it's not coming up, but it is, and it'll be here soon. And so we're excited to talk to you about that today. Like I said, my name is Carley Nuzzo. I'm a senior counselor here at ESM. And a little bit about my background is way back when I did my undergraduate at the University of Alabama on an academic scholarship. And then I went to Harvard and then finished up at UCLA and got my PhD there. Been working in college admissions and also been working with ESM's graduate admissions team. And I love it here, love working with my kids, and excited to be with you all today. And Carrie.
Thanks, Carly. I'm Carrie Jorgenson, also a senior college coach here at ESM. Prior to ESM, I worked in college admissions for the UC system, first for UC Santa Cruz and then for UC Berkeley. And prior to that, I spent about a decade in high schools working with kids and doing college counseling in that capacity. And summer is something that's always come up for students. It's crazy to be talking about it in January. It does feel kind of weird. Like, why are we having this conversation
so cold
now? Yeah, exactly. When you look outside and it's cold. But it is important to start to think about sooner than later. As with all things in the college counseling world, sooner is better. And just having a plan of attack in place is what we want for our students, and a customized plan of attack, because there's really no one size fits all, much like the college application process and developing a college list and whatnot. So for today, we've got a couple of different topics we want to cover with you. We're going to go over this concept regarding summer buckets. We're also going to chat a little bit about the differences in terms of what would be appropriate for a rising sophomore versus a rising junior versus a rising senior. We'll talk about timelines, when it's important to really start to tackle summer applications and the planning process. We will chat about ESM's program called Launch Academy that we have for rising seniors, and then really just the importance of how a productive summer can impact your college applications. The work that you do over the summer really does have a lasting impact on you as a person and your development, but also has a purpose in terms of getting you ready for the application process.
Okay, so we said that we were going to talk about summer buckets. This was a concept by our founder, Billy, I think, originally. I'll give it to him. I'll give him the credit for it. So there's 3 summer buckets. First is academic, second is extracurricular, third is personal. Here at ESM, obviously, a lot of our focus tends to be on the academic, and that's probably why you're here, because you're interested in learning about how to set your students up for a productive summer, which in a lot of cases means academic. But for us, we also want to make sure that there's balance among these 3 buckets for your students' summer. High school kids should still have time to let loose a little bit in the summer, to decompress, to be high school kids. And so it's really important to find balance between these 3 buckets. And we'll talk about mostly the top 2, because the third one isn't really something that the purpose is for us not to be planning out the third bucket for our students, right? So that's up to you as parents, for family trips, or just as a student hanging out with their friends, sleeping in a little bit, whatever, eating more ice cream than the school year, or whatever that personal bucket is. But I do think that it's really important. A lot of our students are incredibly stressed during the school year, and blowing off a little bit of steam in the summer is just as important as making gains in some of these other areas that we're going to talk about.
Absolutely. And if you can build in that relaxation especially prior to junior and senior year, which are academically really challenging years. Junior year is notorious for that. And then senior year, you really need to come in rested because college applications take a toll, along with usually a higher course load of classes, more rigorous classwork. And just, I can't emphasize enough how important it is to de-stress over the summer while also trying to fit in an academic and an extracurricular experience. So it's a bit of a jigsaw,
Exactly.
but we don't want, we have to underscore the importance of just taking that time for yourself to unplug a little bit.
Students get really burnt out by the end of fall of senior year. So making sure that they go into that fresh and ready and prepared is very important.
Absolutely. So there's really kind of 3 key summers that we like students to focus on, going into sophomore year, junior year, and then senior year. And in an ideal world, kind of the activities that you would pursue would sort of build upon each other after each year. The buckets will shift. Maybe one summer it is more academic focus. Maybe something happens during a student's sophomore year where they really realize that they want to potentially major in business, for instance. So an appropriate idea for them would be going into junior year, getting an internship, perhaps getting actually firsthand experience in the business world, or maybe pursuing like a pre-college course on finance or entrepreneurial studies or something in that nature that will help give students like something tangible that helps to back up that interest in that academic field. A lot of times our students for that rising sophomore summer, some of them will be driving, not all of them. So you just have logistics you need to think about. Also, if you're trying to get a job, a lot of times you have to be 16. So there's kind of that added, the sky isn't the limit, going into that rising sophomore summer. So sometimes those programs and choices that students make need to be a little bit more curated, and just thinking through that is important. The summer, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, no, I was just gonna say, adding on to the sophomore year, most of our students don't know what they want to do sophomore year, right? So, or rising sophomore. So the goal, a lot of like what I tend to tell students about rising sophomores for that summer is that this is the summer where you want to try things out. You want to try to figure out what your academic interest is. So a lot of times we refer to that as interest exploration. So this probably isn't the summer unless you have that special student that knows exactly what they want to do already. But this probably isn't the summer to invest in some really intensive program that's very set on one specific topic. It might be the summer to try out a couple of different interests to see what your student likes. A lot of these students, they're like, oh, I love microbiology. And like, do you know what microbiology is? Like, do you know what that entails? Or a very common one is business. And it's like, okay, well, what kind of business? What are you interested in? Like, I don't know. My mom or dad does it,
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think you hit it on the head. Explorative in nature is what we want you to be thinking about for that rising sophomore summer. And there's a lot of pre-college programs out there. And what I mean by pre-college is a program offered by an institution like NYU, for instance. They're going to have NYU professors teaching courses to high school students. And those courses can be 1 week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, etc. But a rising sophomore, if they're eligible for such a program and interested and willing to kind of leave their bubble and go onto a college campus, like taking a 1 week pre-college program is a great idea, because then it's like, that's 1 week of your summer, but okay, we have 9 other weeks we can be thinking about. So you're dabbling a little bit in one thing, and then you're also layering other different activities into your summer. So rising sophomores is really all about exploration. Junior year, going into junior year is when we would want you to pick it up a little bit and, perhaps start to have a little bit more of a focused approach in terms of what you're picking, and thinking holistically about your story and how whatever you choose to do in that summer could end up being something you write about in your college applications. Just something maybe with a little bit more meat behind it. Also, that summer is a really great summer to dive deep into test prep for students, to start to prepare for the SAT or the ACT. assuming that the student has completed Algebra 2 by that point, or is about to start Algebra 2. That's kind of that sweet spot really where we would want students to just leverage that extra time in the day, because test prep can be a lot while you're also juggling 6, 7 academic classes throughout the school year. What else for rising juniors do you think is important?
Well, so rising juniors, that's it. It's really just in what you said, but a little bit deeper with that is that, so your senior year, right? As a rising senior, I guess I'm jumping ahead now, you're going to be doing a lot of stuff for college applications. So you're not going to have as much time for that deeper dive in whatever your academic interest is, or whatever your, this is like where the big thing that you do in high school should be, is in that summer. Because by the time you get to this rising senior summer, you're working on your personal statement. Maybe you're taking a last few hurrahs for testing. Like, that's a very busy summer already. So we want you getting into the meat of it, like Carrie said, in your junior summer. That being said, students are all in different places. So if your rising junior still hasn't figured out what that academic interest is, then we'll just push it and we'll say, okay, this is maybe like a little bit deeper of a dive in interest exploration. So maybe instead of doing 1 week, we kind of put a little bit more emphasis and a little bit longer amount of time. But that rising junior summer should definitely be leaning more toward the buckets of either the academic or extracurricular, depending on your student. So if your student's planning to, be a college athlete, then that's going to tip a little bit in the extracurricular bucket. But if your student is academics, then you're going to be tipping toward that bucket a little bit, but making sure that that personal bucket's still there too.
Yeah. And I think it's hard to wrap your head around, like, well, what sorts of things can I do to fill those buckets? So we're hoping through this next slide, we can give you some ideas. And all of these ideas, I think, can fit into the timeline. Again, it's completely customizable depending where you are at as a student, what your interests are, your travel plans, your availability. But these are just some ideas to start to think about. One of the ones I always like to start with is a summer job. I think from the admission lens, when I would read applications and I would read that there's a student who's, spent their entire maybe 2 full years of high school waiting tables, and then in the summer took on more shifts, like that tells an admission officer something. That gets at the heart of your work ethic, and helps to confirm qualities about you. You're responsible, you're hireable, and somebody actually wants to pay you for your work. So getting a summer job, I can't underscore the importance of that. That's like a very just classic way to spend your summer, and it does look really great on an application as well. All of these different ideas that we have up here on the screen for you are things that will pop on your application, and things that you will get a lot out of as an individual as well. So we touched on pre-college programs, and after this we'll actually go into one of those applications in depth so we can share a little bit more at that point. But there's organizations out there. A couple of our common ones that we refer families to are Summer Discovery, Oxbridge, and Putney. Those 3 organizations have different partnerships with different colleges around the world, and then they also do a lot of abroad opportunities. So I do a little Googling and spend some time on their websites, but you will find there's pick your flavor, and there's something for everyone between those 3 programs. The one thing to note is that summer discovery programs, for instance, like I think I was just chatting with a family about, UCLA summer discovery, and they have something through UCLA's business school, the Anderson Business School, and you have to read the fine print a little bit, and you realize that it's actually not housed by UCLA. The summer discovery programs are on the UCLA campus, which is really cool and beneficial for students to get that exposure to campus. But there's a distinction. The courses are not taught by UCLA faculty, versus a pre-college program is going to be taught by an actual faculty, if that makes sense.
Which may or may not matter depending on your student and what you're looking for, right, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Right.
And a lot of the summer discovery courses are really cool. I think the topics are really interesting, and they're usually like 2 weeks, a week to 2 weeks, and can just be a great way to to work out that exploration that's needed during the summer.
Yeah. And then, yeah, and there's a lot of options on here. Another thing that is kind of in the summer job, kind of like that typical traditional, something that we talk about too, that's often overlooked, is summer school, maybe helping your student out so that they don't have such a hectic schedule during the school year, taking some of those classes off their plate. But also community college courses, very affordable, really good for interest exploration. A lot of times, some schools let you have credit, all the things. So lots of different options, but like Carrie said, it definitely depends on your student, what they're looking for, what their narrative is, how much kind of rigor they're looking for, how invested in their academic interests they are already, all of those, whether or not they're, sports driven, all of those different things. And so that's where the individualization with your counselor comes in.
Definitely. Okay, so as I mentioned, one of the topics we wanted to dive a little deeper into is just sharing more about a specific pre-college program. So Columbia offers, they call it Columbia Summer Immersion. It's right in New York City. They have residential programming available to students 16 or older. There's over 70 different courses that you can choose from, and then they have different sessions. And so their application is live right now. We figured we would take you over to their website to give you a peek on what it looks like. So you can see here, if you wanted to check out different courses, they have different 3-week options, even a 1-week course. And so here would be 1-week options across the disciplines. Summer is also a really great time for students to figure out what they don't want to do in life. So if there's maybe 2 areas where a student's interested in exploring, like maybe you pick 2 different programs supporting those 2 different interests, and then the student will walk away with hopefully a clear winner, like, oh wow, I actually like this one more than that one, which is all really helpful in terms of thinking of the whole college application process and helping to pick majors and whatnot. So Columbia offers a wide range of different courses, and that application is live. So we just wanted to make you aware of kind of what the actual website looks like. And then what goes into the application is a little bit more in depth. Carley can touch on that.
So this is really good practice for college applications. It's like a little mini college application practice round. So basically, even the non-refundable application fee, same thing, Common App.
So true. And it's about as expensive as a typical college application.
Yeah. You're going to need transcripts. Usually unofficial transcripts are fine. And usually you can just download those from your school website. The essay, though, is really important. It's something that we are currently working with our students on. In a lot of ways, it does mirror college essays. Last night, I was working with a student on an essay application for the Brown summer program. And we had a discussion about, she was like, oh my gosh, after I was giving her feedback, she's like, oh, I spent like the whole beginning of my essay, which was like 75% on the intro that's supposed to be, 10%. I was like, actually, this is really good practice because that's usually how the first draft of the personal statement starts. So it's just getting your students in that mindset of those reflective essays, being able to talk about themselves and their interests and, how they're a good candidate, all of those things. In addition to it being necessary to attend a lot of these summer programs, it's a really good practice heading into senior year. Also, same thing with recommendation letters. Your students are going to have to get comfortable building relationships with their teachers where they can tap on them and ask them and be confident in what those teachers are going to say about them, that will add to their application. And so again, thinking about that early, having to navigate this process prior is really great. I always say that the best recommendation, I care less about what subject the teacher teaches and more about like how well do they know you and how much do you trust that they're going to say something of substance and obviously good about you. And then for some programs, you also have to submit a writing sample. For Columbia's, it's going to be for creative writing applicants only, but then like William and Mary, for any of their programs, they ask for a writing sample. So it just depends.
Yeah, and this, applying to different summer pre-college programs or just summer pursuing, summer applications in general, is such a good practice round for what's to come when you actually go to apply to college. It's something that you as a family should be sitting down, reviewing the different options, and then coming up with a game plan. It's really a student's first opportunity to deal with project management and thinking about deadlines and then working backwards. So that means giving your recommenders 2-3 weeks notice prior to when the recommendation is due, so that you can get a quality letter of recommendation and you're not putting this on them the day before. Yeah. The writing part is definitely a great precursor to the personal statement that you'll be writing for your college applications. I was just working with a student on their application for a program through Wharton at UPenn, and he was applying to an entrepreneurship program, and one of the questions was write 140 character tweet about yourself, as if you needed to kind of like market yourself, and that was kind of ended up being a fun exercise. And if you can have the right attitude, it can actually be pretty fun to work through a lot of these summer applications and then use that content that you create when the time comes, if it's appropriate for your actual college apps.
Yes, save everything on Google Docs. Save it all. Save it all.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So there is, definitely some work that goes into these summer applications. For the most part, these pre-college programs are not as competitive as it is to actually get into the institution. Yeah. But it's something you want to put forward a thoughtful application. Okay, so shifting gears from pre-college programs to launch, which is ESM's very own week-long workshop designed to really prepare rising seniors for the college application process. Students who attend launch end up having way less stressful September, October, Novembers, because you spend an entire week devoted to college applications, knocking out different components in the Common App, as well as your writing of the personal statement. You're working with the best and the brightest. You'll have ESM's college counseling coaches there.
We'll all be there.
Yes, we will, to guide you through this process. This year, we're hosting launch at UC Santa Cruz from Sunday, July 30th to Friday, August 4th. And launch is open to the class of 2024. So that's rising seniors. Right now, registration is reserved for students who currently work with us and are working with a counselor, and then it will open up to ESM families who don't work with a counselor starting February 15th. So be on the lookout for more information regarding the sign up of that. Quickly, I'll show you guys our website just so you can get familiar with that. If you want to go on now and take a look as well, you're more than welcome. But precollegelaunch.com, and everything you would need to know about what goes into this wonderful week is on our website. But cannot stress how wonderful launch is anymore. And if you have the chance to send your student, I highly recommend it.
So excited for UC Santa Cruz too. It'll be so
fun. Yeah. I mean, what's not to like? Okay, so back to kind of the initial point that we made, which is how a productive summer can impact your college applications.
Yeah. So this is super exciting. This is really what probably most of you are thinking about when you're attending this webinar, because of who we are and, everything. So we're going to go through an activity list and then I think first we're going to talk about some essay prompts that really speak directly to summers and how summers can actually help your student answer these big questions. So the personal statement is kind of straightforward. This is where, those aha moments, the student digging into finding out who they are, all of those things, I mean, they can definitely happen over the school year, but a lot of times fleshing those things out, that's going to happen over the summer, when they're not so bombarded by sports and extracurriculars and classes and all of those things. Not only that, but that's when students will be writing their personal statement is over the summer, their rising senior year. So we've compiled some supplements that we just wanted to take you through. Again, these are the college application supplements. So the first one I think is Stanford. And this one of their short answer questions is actually, how did you spend your last 2 summers? So these short answer questions are really trying to just get quickly to who the student is. Again, it's only 50 words, but then even if you dig into some of those short essays, a lot of those will actually be impacted by summer as well. So, learning in and out of the classroom, a lot of students only opportunity to learn outside of the classroom would be those summers, right? So that interest exploration during the summer is going to come up right here in short essay number 1, but you also have that specific number 2 that goes directly to the heart of what did you do for the summers. But also number 4, extracurriculars, a job, family responsibilities, all of these things. Summers really, as we work with students, summers help answer these questions.
Yeah, they sure do. Another example is Vanderbilt. They ask a question that kind of gets at the heart of it as well, elaborating on how your extracurricular activities or work experiences have influenced you. So really, it's a broad question, but hopefully you have something substantial to be able to answer that question. And crafting a meaningful summer for yourself is how you're going to be able to answer that question effectively. So it comes up, I would say, majority of supplemental questions asked by colleges, a student can draw an answer from a summer experience. So can't emphasize enough how important a meaningful summer is in terms of being able to just get through the college application process. Same with University of Colorado Boulder. Yeah, this one, it basically every college asks some version of this, but please share a bit more about your academic interests. What do you hope to study here? What's inspired your interest in this area? Oh, okay, I really want to go into the world of finance. And by the way, I've spent the last 2 summers doing financial internships. And I also took a course through UCLA Extension on finance. And there you go. There's your answer right there.
These are really, these questions are really hard for students to answer if they haven't done that interest exploration. So if your student is only going to be, and like Carrie said, these questions are asked by a large majority of schools in their supplements, is why do you want to study what you want to study, basically, and at our school usually. But it's really hard for students to answer these questions if all they have is, I've taken a class in high school that's tangentially related to this major, or well, my mom does it, like, so summers become very important here. And this is where having that extra little something to say and to build upon is really important. And it will help you stand out. Whereas most students that are applying to Boulder are probably saying, I want to study biology. I took AP Bio and AP Environmental Science, and I liked the classes. It lays a little bit flatter than being like, oh, I pursued this over the summer. Oh, I added the next summer. I really found out that I enjoy,
working in a lab,
organisms, whatever.
Yeah. You're building upon your experience.
Really, I'm humanities. But, building on that, getting a little bit deeper, a little bit more focused, and being able to really show that commitment. And that real genuine interest will make your students stand out a lot.
Yeah, it puts substance behind the answer, which is everything. Okay, well, we're going to wrap up by showing you the activities list. So for those of you that don't know, majority of colleges house their actual application on what's called the Common App. I think there's about 1,000 member institutions. So your students will become very familiar with the Common App. As part of the Common App, students are asked to report their top 10 activities or up to 10 meaningful activities that they've been involved with. They have 150 characters where they can write about the activity. So this becomes a very important exercise for counselors and students to go through the summer prior to the student's senior year, which is where you're really kind of taking a student's resume and putting it into this activities list. So Carly's going to walk you through one particular student's activities list so you can get a sense and a feel for what is really being asked.
Yeah, so, and then Carrie said 150. This is how we generally set it up for our students. 350 is for the UCs. That's why you'll see both, but it's talking about the same activity. And so this student in particular actually had way more than 10. And so we had to choose the ones that were most impactful for her as a student, and also, you know, most relevant for her narrative. So the first three are sports, and even in her activity list, you can see a gradual increase in responsibility, in dedication, in achievement. And so you see that she has that she becomes team captain, that she ends up playing varsity, that she is building on those experiences in all three. Then we're kind of going into, for activity 4 here, and then we'll see it below too, her academic interests. So she has this internship, and this was the summer before her senior year. She has an internship. Again, in a couple of activities, you'll see that she also does STEM as far as volunteering at her school, and different activities and clubs, and also volunteering at her school. I think it's activity 9 as well. And then you see that she does have a pretty balanced kind of broad activity list. Not all students will have this, but you see this consistent theme throughout. So you're seeing the dedication to STEM, you're seeing the athletics, and then you're also seeing kind of like this community leader role in other activities. And so each year you're seeing her build on that. She has her STEM interests where she's not only volunteering through it, but she's also has the internship, the job, and the school club that she's running that is also related to giving back a little bit. And then as well as the sports, she also has she ties in community service with the sports too, I think, with the Harlem lacrosse. Yeah. So you see these consistent threads throughout, and a progression of increased responsibility, increased focus, and dedication throughout her activity list.
Yeah, and it's important to note that, you know, of the 10 activities, obviously not all 10 are filled up through the summer. So students are doing really meaningful work throughout the entire course of the school year, and that doesn't go unnoticed. But it would be great if maybe 2-3 slots could be devoted to talking about meaningful things that students pursue during the summer when they just simply don't have time. Beyond,
like that internship that she did at Stanford, that's not going to happen during the school year, you know? So that really deep, impressive activity on the list is going to be done over the summer for the most part, usually. Yeah.
And that's just a great opportunity for students to further develop their resume. Well, on that note, I think we're wrapped up and done with our summer webinar. I hope you found this to be informative and at least got the wheels working in terms of different ideas that could be meaningful for a student to pursue at any point in their high school career.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, we'll kind of just hang here for a minute. But also feel free to reach out via email or through our website if you have any questions after the webinar. Thanks so much.